Okay, so today we're joined by Eugina Yoon. Hello, thank you for sharing your time with us.
Hi.
Eugina, hi. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your job?
So my name is Yugina. I work at Coursera. I'm currently our marketing lead for student programs. So we have a lot of students who are applying for sponsorships for different lands or tournaments they're hosting on campus. And then we create student recreation centers that focus on gaming and host workshops to help students career in finding, oh, I'm so sorry about my dog. I help students find their career in STEM.
That's awesome. I mean, I was gone at UCI, but at the time they were building this amazing and crazy gaming center, and it's just like the chairs looked so nice, all the systems is set up. Very envious of those students. How long have you been at this position?
So I've been at Coursera for 3 years working on student programs, but I did a very similar job beforehand. So before joining Coursera, which is a computer hardware components manufacturing company, I was also at Blizzard. I've done some work with Riot Games, and I did a lot of freelance production work within the esports space.
Nice. So this is a very specific niche. We kind of talked about this briefly before, and we can see behind you that you yourself are a gamer.
Right.
And is this like, did you always envision being in marketing? Like, was that always a goal of yours, or did you just kind of like find your way there?
So I actually thought that there were probably two ways things would go. I studied marine science and I was pretty convinced I'd be a marine biologist by now since the age of 5.
Wow.
I really love fish. I love mammals. I love everything about the ocean. I mean, we live in California. It's really hard not to. But grad school is really expensive. So I thought I would take a few years off to work in production. So a lot of gaming companies will host tournaments. There will be competitive gameplay that's being recorded and broadcast to fans. That is kind of what I thought I'd do for a couple years to make some money before going to grad school. So
Ah.
ending up in marketing is kind of a function of the fact that I love video games. It's definitely not what I expected I'd be doing.
Like long-term wise, do you intend on staying like in this field of marketing, related to gaming, of course, or I don't know, would you be interested in going back to marine biology, or is that not on the table anymore?
I would love to work in program management. So instead of the marketing side, the organizing of the programming to make sure that there's functionality to the things that we're creating. That is, I think, what my main interest is. That being said, I'm not opposed to going back into marine science. I think there's a lot of work to be done. And I also don't necessarily see it being one or the other. I think that there's a lot of opportunity to do things on weekends or in your own time to be in support of either or. So I'd be okay with going either into full-time marine science or staying full-time in gaming.
For sure. That's awesome. I mean, to have the best of both worlds, right? Do you feel like, with marketing especially, you're put in social situations constantly, like having to talk about your company and also make small talk? And as we've touched upon in this class, like these social skills, these soft skills are so crucial, especially making a good impression on your future employer. Also, like even if you're at a current job, like kind of mingling with your coworkers and such. So for you, did you always feel confident in terms of like your social abilities, or was that something that you groomed and tailored over time?
So I'm actually incredibly shy. I'm incredibly introverted, but I think the job has made me get better at it because, again, I am in front of a lot of people. I'm always talking about the program. I'm figuring out ways to improve the program. We're collecting feedback at all points. And a big function of my job is talking to students, hearing their language and making them feel comfortable. So a function of my job is actually to manage portions of our social media channels. And that includes Discord, which is a new platform that's meant for chatting about games or any hobby that you have. Our company actually has a public Discord where fans of our brand, our sponsored teams, or activations can come and talk to us as staff members, as team members, and ask basically anything. So I spend a lot of my time talking to people, and we're a global brand actually. So I also have to curate the kind of language that I use or the way that I talk to people, not only in terms of age demographics, right? My professional partners are all, 30 years and up, but then the kids that I work with are, in college, they're 18, they're 19.
Yeah.
Um, And then also the fact that we have, students who are coming from Japan and Korea, where they're here for very technical questions. They just want to, how do I get this thing done? Or my product broke, where do I go for solutions? Versus our fans here in the US who just want to ask things like, Eugenia, what do you do in your spare time? Eugenia, what are some hobbies that you have? Can you recommend me a movie to watch tonight? So curating our local language and voice, as well as demographically in terms of age, is a big part of my current job.
Wow, that's intense because yeah, depending on like where these gamers or people of interest are coming to you from, you kind of have to tailor your I'm sure your body language and also like the way that you communicate with them, their tone, right? Of course, addressing like the different demographics and age. For yourself, just curious, with small talk usually in the office, it's like, how was your weekend? How is your family? Like, how are you doing now with the coronavirus? But being in the gaming world, and forgive me for just kind of jumping to this assumption, but I would guess that you have a really kind of cool and strong rapport with your coworkers and your cohort to like play video games together and such. Is that the case, or am I way off?
We definitely play a lot of games together, but that's not necessarily the computer games. I mean, we're a computer hardware company, so a
Mm.
lot of what we do is PC gaming, but a number of us are console gamers. A lot of us really like board games, as you can see. So specifically on my team, we all play a game called Dungeons and Dragons, which is a role-playing game. I also think it's a great game for learning new languages if you force yourself into speaking only in that language, because you have really weird conversations that force you to push past your language barriers. So I actually teach Korean. So along with my coworkers, we actually hosted a small session in Korean where they had to practice the words that they had learned and do a single day all in Korean role-playing scenarios. In other instances, we're doing them in different worlds. So Ravnica is for the Magic the Gathering game. They hosted a D&D function. We all play a variety of great games, and it's not necessarily just computer games. I think that's the big difference and misconception. We're all gamers at heart, and we're not picky about what we play.
That's awesome. I love that sense of camaraderie and like community that you have, and like in you teaching them Korean, another culture, another like perspective, and like looking out into the world. I love it. That's awesome. What do you do on your downtime? Because I can imagine you're always on the go, being quite busy. And I know before you mentioned that it's like, an international company. Did you have to travel for work before, or no?
Yeah, I travel a ton for work. I think right now we're not doing any traveling because of the global climate. But I usually spend about 2 or 3 weekends outside traveling. And then, the normal 5 days of the week are spent in the office. So there is quite a travel. There is quite a bit of traveling to be done. Um, but in my downtime, I actually really love to garden. I love to read. I host a book club.
Nice.
That's like the big thing that I really enjoy. We also have a movie club now that we're in COVID. We can't go to the movies anymore. But there's a saying in the gaming industry where the more you work in gaming, the less you play games. And I think it's definitely true where you don't want to take home the work that you have. So if we're partnering with a new game studio or a new game is launching, you would think that we'd be spending hours playing, but that's exhausting. So a lot of us don't play a lot of games after work.
That's quite interesting. I mean, I've heard that as well, that, you're mentally burnt out just from thinking about the game and, tackling it from different perspectives, that by the time you're home, you just want to shut off your brain and not look at the screens and do something completely different. Okay. And Eugenia, would you say in your 3 years at this company, have you progressed like in terms of getting promotions, or did you land this job and have you just been growing into your role?
So this is a little bit weird in that I was brought on to the company to develop the student program. So I came in with a very specific purpose in mind, which was to create a program and make sure that it could survive, it could thrive, and that it could grow. So I would say more so than myself, it's been a real pleasure to watch the program go from a North America focused program all the way up to a global camaraderie. And, seeing all of those students, I've now had students, who came in for internships and are now working full-time through our program. I've seen students that I've been working with for years work in the industry as my partner now. So that's been really exciting. So I'd say more so than my own growth, seeing the growth of the students in the program has been incredibly exciting. And almost liberating. I'm actually in the process of interviewing for a new job, both inside the company and out. So I will actually soon be stepping away from the program, knowing that, you know, I created this thing that is thriving and living on its own. So
Awesome. It's
yeah,
like your baby.
I'm ready to move on.
So I know you mentioned in-house that there's also some possibilities of you changing job titles and maybe opportunities outside. One thing that we're talking about now in this class is the COVID climate. The job market isn't looking great, but it's not impossible to get a job. What advice would you have for them?
Um, so a lot of people, especially the students that I work with who are new grads, and you know, normally they would have a lot of on-campus resources that they could reach out to. There's usually a campus career center or, you know, alumni who will help them find jobs, and they don't have that network right now. So I hear this a lot, that they think that this is a terrible job climate, and in some industries it truly is. In some parts of the world it really is a difficult time to find a job, but here in the US we're actually seeing quite a bit of a tech boom. You know, there are companies like Zoom who are quadrupling their users
Oh,
every month.
yeah.
You know, Twitch, which is a broadcasting company that's owned by Amazon, they're seeing more and more people logging in to watch things. Streaming services are hiring like crazy, like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Video. I actually think Amazon is hosting a job fair in a few weeks online. So if
Yeah.
anyone's looking for a job, you can talk directly to a recruiter and go over your resume. But there are some industries that are doing incredibly well. And I think those are the type of companies that people who are looking for jobs should be focusing in on. What are the companies that are growing and how can you best suit them? And to not get discouraged, I think that's the big thing. I always tell my students that you'll apply to 100 jobs, you know, 90 of them are going to be a rejection, or they'll just never even respond to you. But of the 10 that reply, you know, you're going to get a handful of no's after the first call. And even fewer, you're going to get to that on-site full panel interview, that last interview. You're going to get very like one or two of your 100 applications will get to that stage. And then it's kind of up to you to, you know, take it the final leg to an offer letter. But it's a grind. You have to apply to like 100 jobs to get an offer letter and to not get discouraged.
It's totally a numbers game. How
Yeah.
do you manage, because you're in such a competitive field, like as you mentioned, IT is booming like crazy, especially during this pandemic. For yourself, like how do you distinguish yourself? How do you stand out among like the sea of candidates?
I think standing out is great, but at any level, jobs are really who you know. So one thing that my mentor has always told me is that your net worth is your network. And so the more people you know and the more right people you know, the easier it is to find a job. So I think being able to leverage the people that you know and the relationships that you've built thus far will be your best bet at finding a job. So I would say for those of you who don't have a huge network, you know, recruiting events, getting to know the people in your community. You know, I live in Irvine, so networking actually is quite easy for me. There are a number of game studios, you know, down the block at Irvine Spectrum. So I see people wearing Blizzard shirts all the time, and I can say, oh, I actually used to work at Blizzard. It's so nice to know that another Blizzard coworker is here. Or, you know, game studios that I'm currently interested in, like Amazon Game Studios, is also like 2 blocks down the street. So there's a lot of coworkers who are in a lot of public spaces. You know, get to know people and get comfortable asking people, hi, my name is, how are you? Oh, that's so cool. Do you work at blank? Oh, I love that company and your products. You kind of have to showcase yourself.
Yeah, so I guess that leads me to my next point of, engaging. Like a lot of students, they have all these brilliant ideas, but they feel like hesitant to get that ball rolling and like start a conversation. In terms of small talk, like, do you have any advice for them? Rather
Um,
than just like, of course, get out, do it, but especially now if they're limited and they're not in the fields that you have already listed, what should they do?
For students in particular, it's actually really quite easy because you can say the magic line of, "Hi, I'm a recent grad," or "Hi, I'm a student at school. Do you mind if I, steal 10 minutes to ask some questions?" I think most people remember what it was like to be a student and how terrifying it was that you were worried you wouldn't find a job, that no one was willing to help you. So I think just being a student, being a new grad, especially with the global pandemic, everyone is happy to give you 10 minutes, right? Here I am giving you 10, 15 minutes to help practice. So I would say, one, leverage that if you can. Two, practice your elevator pitch, right? Have a really strong introduction. Know exactly who you are and what you want, especially even out of a conversation, so that you're not wasting anyone's time. Time is precious. And if they give you the time of day, you should know exactly what you want to get out of it. So being able to introduce yourself and having those questions pre-prepared for what you want to get out of a meeting can be incredibly valuable.
Very nice. Yeah, I like that idea of the elevator pitch, and that's something that we're trying to put together for my students that aren't familiar with it. You have to think in the time of that you're riding the elevator, you have a very brief amount or brief window which you can engage and talk to someone. So that's what she's talking about. I guess two more questions for you, Yugina. So you've been applying, you've been interviewing. What does that process look like for you so far? Is it strange to have everything like, do you feel slightly disconnected? Like, I'm sure most of your interviews are being conducted like via screens and not in person, right? So how has that experience been like for you?
I think I do way better online than in person. I'm incredibly awkward. I trip over everything, including my own words. So I actually think that the video interviews have been working very well for me, but I understand that a lot of people have different strengths. So, video call may not be the best option for a lot of other people. I will say that even though I have a huge network and I've been getting referrals, I've also been rejected from some jobs that I was really excited about. And I will say that, it really is discouraging to feel like you don't have any options or you're caught in a corner. But remaining positive and internalizing that, every call is a new opportunity, and having a moment to reset yourself is probably my biggest thing is, after every call, taking a moment to just recenter myself, take down any notes that I had, and then pretending that the next call is something completely new.
Like a new
That's
fresh slate, kind of.
right.
Okay. And do you feel like I tell my students, like, even if you're not necessarily interested in the job, like, go for it just so you can practice the interview skills, because that in itself is a skill that needs to be developed and refined and fine-tuned, right? And especially like you and I share that commonality of being awkward and like more introverted, like on our like, personal lives, but it's something that we've grown to develop, and having these social skills to whatever environment we're placed in, we're able to go, right? My last question for you is we've talked a quite lengthy amount about work personalities, different dynamics, relationships between people, learning how to read them. For yourself, what are 3 words that describe you best in terms of your work personality?
Um, Reserved,
Okay.
efficient, no bullshit. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that to an
You're good.
ESL
You're good.
class,
Don't
but
worry. It's an adult class. Yeah.
I pride myself in just being very straightforward with everyone, including my partners. And, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. If it's just not in the realm of possibility, I'll let you know immediately so that we're not wasting anyone's time.
Do you feel like, I'm sorry to ask one more question, but like this mental process of being so efficient at work constantly, has it affected your personal life too? And like in terms of your mentality or your interactions with like friends, family, or do you kind of like turn the switch or turn the gears?
I actually think I have not multiple personality disorder, but I think everyone has multiple personalities. You have
Sure.
the type of person that you are with your parents. You have the type of person that you are with your significant other or your partner. And then you have your work personality, your friend personality. And I've even noticed that, the person that I am with my Korean friends is very different from my American friends. So I think I would say it's like a switch, but it's almost like a dial where there's a few different options. It's not just on or off.
Okay, well said. And then do you have any last bit of advice or anything else you'd like to say before we close out this interview?
In general, and especially with a lot of my immigrant friends who are really either struggling to get, integrated with the American dream or anything, I always tell them that interviews in general are not just a one-way street, they're always a two-way street. As much as they're asking you questions, if they don't provide you the opportunity to ask questions, if they don't mesh with you in terms of cultural fit, if you don't see yourself reflected in the company values, they may not be a great fit for you. And I don't necessarily want to say to people that, you can't take a job if it's not a cultural fit, or, you may need the money. I think there are 100 reasons to take a job and 100 reasons to turn one down. But know that an interview goes two ways. You can feel that a company's not a good fit for you just as much as they may not feel that you're a good fit for them. And that is totally okay.
Yeah, I really love that because I told my class that, the ball is equally in your court. Like you shouldn't feel, I know it's a nerve-wracking process naturally, especially if you like really are eager to get this job, like this dream job. But
Right.
likewise, yeah, the culture has to fit on both sides and it has to be a good fit for both parties. So thank you, Eugenia, so much for your time. I know you're insanely busy, but we really appreciate it and my students will too. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Good luck, everyone.